Hey everyone, Cloudy over here, and today I'm going to be answering questions that you sent over via Facebook or Twitter. Thank you so much in regards to video games. And I would love if you would like to comment below and ask me more questions for a future video, and also comment below and answer with your responses as well, because I would love to keep the conversation going. I would love to hear your thoughts on these questions as well. So the task here is to answer these questions while petting Wakame. So here we go. CM Parsons asks, thoughts on Resident Evil 7? Do you like the new gameplay? And if it's a success, should there be a reboot for the franchise? Okay, well, Resident Evil 7 came out this past Tuesday, and I haven't had a chance to play it. However, I have watched a couple Let's Plays, the first 30 minutes so I don't get too spoiled, and already I think it's lived up to its fear factor, along with the fact that it's VR compatible. Anyone who's playing VR, I have heard such positive reviews. Motion sickness, that is my fear when it comes to VR. And I love the scale of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard because it's a little different than what we're used to when it comes to Resident Evil games. I was scared watching some of the gameplay. So that being said, I can't really give you a full-on thought or review on what I thought of Resident Evil 7 because it wouldn't be completely fair. But my initial impressions would be that I'm definitely going to get this game, and I know I'm going to get scared, so I ask that you guys join me when I get this game. Well, I'm going to be streaming it because I would love to have a couple friends like you guys to chat with me along the way so I don't get too scared. And if I get scared, you guys can definitely make fun of me, okay? Do I think there should be a reboot if it's successful, or a remake if it's successful? I don't think reboots or remakes are very necessary when it comes to Resident Evil. It has had so much success. It has over 24 different titles along with its spin-offs and all that stuff. I think that they just got to keep it going, and to make it even better, because it's a horror genre, it would work so well with VR that if they create these games and they develop these games simultaneously with VR, it can become a really... they can really just refresh the genre in itself. I think VR is fantastic for this game. So I will be playing it at some point once I finally get my way through Final Fantasy VII, along with The Last Guardian. I have a couple games in queue that I definitely want to play. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, comment below, let me know, is Resident Evil 7 scary for you? Fun fact, Biohazard is actually the name that Japan gives this game. Biohazard. What are your top 5 of all time games? That's hard. I always find it very difficult to answer your favorite games of all time. It depends on what I'm thinking at that time, what I'm in the mood for. Generally speaking, I think that I have a special place in my heart for many RPGs, especially the JRPGs, especially the old school turn-based system. That's my jam. Top 5 games that just come off of my head, and I could be like, oh, I forgot that one, oh, I forgot this one. I would say Skyrim, Final Fantasy IV, Uncharted, Last of Us. Naughty Dog got 2 of them. For the narrative of itself, The Wolf Among Us, because that was just phenomenal, and I really wish that there was a season 2. I know there's no difficulty really when it comes to Telltale games, but the narrative is so nice. It's like a choose your own adventure story. What is your favorite genre? Oh boy, I don't know. I'm definitely gonna have to say, though, I'm not a big fan of first-person shooters. But I'm a sucker for things that are fantasy settings, like Skyrim or The Witcher 3. I gravitate towards very ethereal gaming, like Child of Light, which is also fantasy. I love fantasy stuff, with princesses and queens and kings and royalty. Just that whole genre, Lord of the Rings, Shadows of Mordor. That's the stuff that I really enjoy. But I would say my favorite genre of all time is JRPG. And I know that that is so far off from the JRPGs I used to play back when I was a child to the JRPGs that are of today. They're just amazing. Sometimes I even wonder if we took or the developers took a little less time developing, how good things look visually and graphically, would the narrative, would the story be better? But all in all, who knows, right? Gaming has come such a long, long way. What are some of your best video games from your childhood? Oh man, honestly, I would say Mario Party. Mario Party was so much fun playing with your friends on the N64, hurting your palm, hurting your thumb. You would get really, really mad. You can lose your friends for the next couple hours, but it was just such competitive fun. Nintendo did such a good job with making games that are super interactive with people around you. It's like you don't want to play single player mode when you're playing Nintendo games. For the most part, you want to play with friends. I'm talking about Mario and Luigi games. You know what I'm saying? I really enjoy those. So that was like kind of my favorite game. And also when I had my solo time, I gotta say, any of the Final Fantasies leading up to Final Fantasy VII, those were epic. I couldn't wait to get home, to play, to build up my character. If you could create a game, what would it be? John Zarlings. I'm just going to say, because I would want to create a really badass Sailor Moon game. Like a fighting game, like Street Fighter style game, but with the Sailor Scouts, Sailor Senshi, whatever you want to call them, with a really interesting storyline. I would pick something like that. I think that would be really, really fun. Or Sailor Moon RPG, but come to America, Come to America. Are you excited about Injustice coming out this May? Not really. By the Pharaoh, why do sports game put out the same game every year? Maybe minor roster update, the game is the same. Shakes my head. I guess would be because people keep buying it, and even though there's a roster change, people want to go through that roster change. They want to have the updates and the new skins, the downloadable content, the special stuff going on. Like WWE keeps coming out with 2K13, 2K14, and fans want to just keep playing those games, and I totally understand that. What is your personal best for beating a game? What was the game? Kicking my friends' asses as Princess Peach in Mario Party all the time. You cannot beat me. Mario Kart, you cannot beat me in the original SNES. I think that's my personal best, is that I can kick your butt. Sorry? As a gamer, what are your strengths and weaknesses? I'm meticulous. I like to think things through. That's why JRPGs. That's why RPGs work well for me. I like to build my characters. Open worlds work well for me in that sense. And I love games that have a lot of story development and a lot of character development. So my strengths is truly just getting involved with the character. I know that sounds kind of like a weak answer, but I think it's kind of important for the type of gamer that I am. And my weakness is first-person shooting. I'm not very good at shooting, and that is also kind of why I tend to stay away from multiplayer games that involve competitive gaming, because I get really worried about the trolls or the people playing who are way advanced that kind of intimidate you because you're not as good, and sometimes they don't give you the chance to practice or be good because they're so brutal. So that is my weakness, really, is multiplayer games. That's why I've been afraid to play Overwatch, even though I heard it's super cooperative and it's a whole different style of multiplayer. Excuse me, maybe I'll give Overwatch a chance, but for now, I think that is my weakness. My weakness is playing with online people, to be honest with you. Although, I have been playing League of Legends. This is from my friend Patrick Dees. Patrick. Is Prompto from Final Fantasy 15 a great character or the greatest character? Patrick, come on. Final Fantasy 15... Prompto is adorable. He's excited. He's energetic. He's the one in the crew that has that naive factor. He's genuine. and he's fun, and he's the one that lets me do all the PS4 chairs because of his picture taking skills and whatnot. I think he's a great character, but he's by far not the greatest character ever. I like them dark and conflicted, like Joel or Nathan Drake or Cecil from Final Fantasy IV. I like the ones that have just a lot of different dimensions going on. Alyssa White, hey girl. Which video game character do you want to bang the most? Oh my god, did I just ask that question out loud? Ooh, I think I just mentioned them. The first one that comes to my head is really either Joel from The Last of Us or Nathan Drake. I like the rugged look when a man has a beard and he looks just almost disheveled and aged. I like men who look like they've been through stuff. You know what I mean? Or men that just look mature. Or Hermosa, can we play WWE 2K17? Sure. I don't have the game, but if you let me come over, I will play the game with you. First NES game you completed on your own. I'm going to say Gyromite, and that took forever, but I love Gyromite. Gyromite's so fun. What was your game of the year for 2016 or top 5 games of the year? That's very kind of you, Chester Brown, because you let me decide whether I just want to pick 1 or 5, and that's difficult. I'm just going to pick 1. I think the one game that I just kept going home to or couldn't wait to go home and play constantly and nonstop was Skyrim's Remastered. I know that sounds so cheesy, but you gotta understand how much I love Skyrim. And the fact that it's the same game, and that's fine. I never got tired of the game when it came out in 2011. I played that for 2 years ongoing, so when it became remastered and the first opening credits or scene, the visual effects was astounding to me, and it was beautiful. And I think it shouldn't be my 2016 game of the year because there's so many other games. I mean, I really liked Firewatch. I really, really liked Tomb Raider, the one that finally came out on PS4. Uncharted 4, I really couldn't wait for that. Those are all so good, but I have to say, in terms of what I had the most fun with, and I continue to have fun with, I would have to say Skyrim Remastered, because now the DLCs are there too, and I found myself playing some of the DLCs that I haven't had a chance to play with in the past. And so there's some elements to it that if you haven't, fully played Skyrim, I recommend getting the remastered version to really get the full-on take of it. I would love Skyrim, by the way, to be available in VR mode, by the way. That would be a trip. By Jace, what Japanese-only game do you want most here? That's really hard. To be honest with you, there's a lot of Japanese games that I would love to be here. And a lot of Japanese games make its way here, but years later, the language translation doesn't translate too well all the time. Japanese games do really well on the 3DS because in Japan, it's such a... You move around a lot. You're always on the train. You're always on the go. And I think those are the games that I would love to see more adapted onto the 3DS. Are those games, You think about Fire Emblem. You think about Bravely Default. All those kind of games. I would like to see the Japanese versions of those JRPGs moved on. You guys got to pay attention to Nintendo. That's what I'm saying. Okay, next question. If you were to live in a video game universe, which universe would you live in? Okay. Gosh, I sound like such a broken record. I would, without a doubt, choose Final Fantasy IV because it's my favorite game. It's my favorite game. And I would pick this because you can be a summoner, you can be a knight, you can be a mage, you can be a ninja, you can be whatever the hell you want to be. You can be anything. And I would definitely be a summoner like Rydia. She's my favorite. Or Rydia. Chocobos, Magic, Viton, Bahamut, Ifrit, all of that. Being a wrestling fan, what is your favorite wrestling game of all time? I am a huge wrestling fan, but I do not play wrestling games. That being said, my favorite wrestling game of all time is way back when with Starman Pro Wrestling on the Nintendo. I'm going to go with that. That's the one I'm going to pick for my favorite wrestling game of all time. What game are you most excited for in 2017, Jared Nicholas? Ooh, South Park? I loved South Park. Fractured But the Whole. I loved that game so much, and I love Ubisoft games. So I'm going to pick, without a doubt, South Park. And I'm sure I'm forgetting other games, but you know, just RPGs is just my thing. And with the humor addition to it, I'm really anticipating this game, and I can't wait. If you can remake a classic title from the 80s, what would that title be? Oh, that's a really tough and a good question. I'm gonna say Chrono Trigger. Yeah, man. Was that the 80s or was that the 90s? Anyways, I'm just gonna go with Chrono Trigger. I think they should totally remake that and reboot it. I think that would be so grandiose, and it's as much as, and you talk to anyone who's played Chrono Trigger and they love it. And if you haven't played Chrono Trigger, I'm sure you've heard about how good it is. So I think there's something there if anyone decides to really hop on and develop a Chrono Trigger new title. What is your favorite JRPG that is not a Final Fantasy game? Chrono Trigger, Lufia, Mystic Quest, which was kind of Final Fantasy. All of those. I really, really enjoyed those. How excited are you for the Nintendo Switch? I want to see what people think. I know I'm going to get it, even if people say it's terrible, because I'm just such a huge Nintendo fan. And I think they're really clever in how they're marketing it. Best GTA character. My best GTA character. Oh boy, that's really tough. I'm going to go with Michael, because Michael is the kind of guy that hits close to home, works 9 to 5, gave up his dreams, gave up his passions for a very unappreciative family, for a very unappreciative life, and it feels very similar. Like I said, I always get attached to characters that you can relate to, that are driven by emotions that you can kind of feel familiar with. So out of all those GTA crazy nut characters, I think Michael, though obscene and such a dick, is my favorite one. First video game you remember playing? Duck Hunt. I remember playing Duck Hunt, and I remember cheating and going to the screen. Duck Hunt is the first game I remember playing, but I'm sure I've played games before that. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and dropping over those questions, and please, please, please feel free to ask me more questions down below, more video game related questions, and I adore these. Also, comment below with your responses, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And I would just love it if you told a friend today, hey, this nice girl, Kaori, has a YouTube channel where she talks games, sometimes wrestling, so check her out, an occasional vlog. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time for some more talk. See ya.